The African National Congress's National Working Committee meeting, which was set for yesterday, will sit today following a postponement. The National Executive Committee will meanwhile convene tomorrow. Members of the two senior structures are expected to deliberate on the Section 89 panel report on the 2020 theft at President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm in Phala. The three-member panel, led by former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo, found that Ramaphosa may have a case to answer. On Friday, an NEC meeting on the matter was adjourned after party members asked for time to digest the contents of that report. Let's speak now to our political editor, Lukhanyo, Calata, in terms of what to expect and what the latest essentially is. Good morning, Dr. Calata. What more do we know this hour?
Okay, so what we know, obviously, is that the National Working Committee, which comprises the top 6 of the ANC, as well as an additional about 20 to 23 members, 3 of those being ex officio, will gather at around 2 o'clock today to follow the process then of what was supposed to have happened before the Friday NEC meeting. So they'll look at the report and then they'll then make a determination as to whether or not the contents and the recommendations of this report should then serve before the National Executive Committee, which is expected to sit tomorrow at 10 o'clock, where the party's top structure in between conferences will then also debate it, discuss it, and then make a determination as to whether or not the party should then defend the president on Tuesday when Parliament debates the report, or whether or not the party must make a decision based on this report to recall the president. So this is what we know.
Sure. What do we know about the president's involvement in those processes, in particular the NEC meeting, which on Friday is set for just somewhat 20 minutes? We're hearing that some sectors within the party are arguing that, well, in 2008 and in 2018, when the two former presidents were recalled, they didn't attend NEC meetings.
So there was a procedural discrepancy, if I can call it like that, with the NEC meeting on Friday. Because it seems that the meeting was called, we don't know by whom. It was then agreed to, probably by the Office of the Secretary General, with acting SG Paul Mashatile in there at the moment. But what we understand is that once that NEC meeting then sat, it was clear that some members wanted to discuss the Phala report. But how could they discuss this report at NEC level when it had not been processed by the top 6 and then the NWC before it gets to that point? So, and I think obviously President Cyril Ramaphosa's supporters understood that, and then they probably advised him not to go, because what is he going to do there? He's going to lend legitimacy to an NEC meeting that was unprocedural, basically. And I think that's probably why he didn't go. I do suspect that we're likely to see him at tomorrow's meeting, because tomorrow's NEC meeting would be procedural. Also, within the African National Congress, Mondays are usually referred to as ANC Mondays. So that's really when the party and its members and its officials would meet and set the agenda for the week. Hence, I suppose, this NEC meeting has been moved to tomorrow, and we do expect that the president will be there, because it would be a properly constituted NEC.
Yeah, and Monday is the day for the proverbial president's newsletter, so it will be quite interesting to read that as well. Yeah. But we understand he's going to be going into a political fight of his life. So much has been said about a divided party, but I guess this is that apex moment of that division.
Oh, yeah, this is the apex moment of that division. You got to think about how we got here. 6 months ago, Arthur Fraser went into a police station, delivered a letter, and accused the president of doing all of this. Now, Arthur Fraser would have known about this robbery at Phala farm for at least 18 months prior, right, to him lodging. So this is my estimation, is a targeted political attack on the president. Why? Well, I mean, we know that there are at least 2 factions within the African National Congress, and they're literally tearing each other apart. And they're doing so because of resources, right? They're being close to government and state resources. The other thing is that the president, over his first term, has put in place, certain structures within government that are now starting to work. For instance, the NPA. It's not as independent as I think the rest of the country would like, but it is independent. Shamila Batohe is doing some work, although, again, not as much as what we would like her to do, but she is doing some work. So those that are compromised are obviously then trying to get hold of the office of the presidency, because they can then use that office to shield themselves politically from criminal problems.
You know that family that the whole street is talking about, there's problems, ne? And you can tell there's problems, but when they walk into a space, they confuse you because you're just like, how? Aren't these the people that are allegedly, supposedly? So the ANC walks in how on Tuesday, especially given the sitting that will be taking place, where they will be tasked with voting whether to adopt this report or not, so that the next step can continue. Will they be walking in as that fractured family, representing a united front?
I think that's what we're likely to see, Dudu. Look, the ANC obviously, look at how it protected former President Jacob Zuma. 8 motions of no confidence against him, and despite us being fully aware of the factions within the party, the ANC defended him because it was almost like a them against us. Now, the NEC meeting tomorrow will, in essence, set the tone. And they will then send an instruction to the ANC caucus in Parliament to say that as the NEC, we have decided that we must protect the president, right? And then the ANC caucus, the chief whip, Pemi Majodina, will then call something that's called the 3-line whip. Now, the 3-line whip simply means that when there is voting on anything, you as a member of the African National Congress cannot vote on your conscience. You can't vote based on how you feel. You will vote as the party had instructed you to do. That's basically what a 3-line whip is. And I'm sure they will call a 3-line whip. And based on everything that's come out this weekend, with many people such as Thuli Madonsela, Matthews Posa, and then a judge called John Murphy, that, they've all put out these statements basically saying that this report is largely flawed and pointing out their arguments as to why they believe it's flawed. It remains to be seen how the ANC is going, whether or not they're going to agree to adopt this report, or they might then say, based on the flaws, we as Parliament cannot adopt this report at this stage. We will allow, maybe give the President some time to take it to court, review it, and then based on a court's expression of itself on this document, then maybe Parliament can come back and say, well, based on that, we will then adopt it. Once it's adopted, it then obviously means they set up a Section 89 committee, which will then look into the removal of the President. But the ANC can still delay or shut this report down as early as Tuesday.
It's only day 4 of 16, which is the start of the National Elective Conference for the African National Congress. And already there's blood on the floor and vultures are circling, some from within the party.
All of them.
Do you perceive that this could change the trajectory of that road to the conference, where we're seeing a dramatic situation where it is potentially postponed or not at all? What are we hearing from party members?
Look, I think conference is going ahead. There is no ways. I doubt that the ANC will postpone it. I think conference will go ahead. What is going to happen is, President Cyril Ramaphosa could come out of this strengthened a lot. Because what happens in the NWC today, what happens in the special sitting of the NEC tomorrow, what then happens in Parliament Monday and Tuesday, could strengthen his hand quite a lot within the party, within the NEC. And if that happens, they go into conference with him significantly strengthened. which I imagine would be contrary to what his detractors would have wanted, because they would have wanted this Phala scandal, to weaken him significantly. But the manner in which the president has dealt with this, Dudu, him being quiet, him not saying very much, going to ground basically, has basically, yes, there's a lot of speculation and that swirling and a lot of noise, but very little coming out from President Cyril Ramaphosa's camp. And I think he's probably doing behind the scenes work, and maybe he might just come out strengthened, because they might just close ranks behind him.
Lukhanyo Calata is our politics editor. Do stay with us. We continue with that theme.